yoga class. And on top of it, then we have this meeting. So we are making his schedule more and more tight. So, but that goes to say, Maharaj, that we are so much inspired by you. We at the ISKCON Chowpatty, our preachers and our youths are so much looking forward to hear from you. So Maharaj, our request that you please keep coming here regularly. So, so the audience here, Maharaj, is these are the youth preachers, and they are like actively taking participation into youth programs. We have almost 28 to 30 youth programs all over the Bombay, and they are actively participating in a different youth programs all over the Bombay. So we had like a long list, but we have to cut down on just this many people. We can't go beyond that. So they are here to hear from you and looking forward from your association, Maharaj. Thank you very much, Maharaj. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for accepting this invitation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. So I think you had some questions and things, so I will just say a few words. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It's brought so much happiness to my heart to be here again in Chowpatty. The first thing I want to say is that the full potential is there for all of you. Yesterday we were in Prerna, and I remember, if I remember correctly, when I was here in 2002, that's when Prerna began. And at that time, there were many devotees staying here. Some of them were in VTA, some of them were in, I think, their training program. And now, practically all of them are doing incredible things. Some of them are brahmacharis, some of them are grihastas, but all of them are wonderful devotees, leaders, dynamic preachers, doing beautiful things for Srila Prabhupada. And so all of you are here, and with time, if we stay faithful to the process, then all magic happens in Krishna consciousness. When I was thinking about whether to join or not, one devotee, he came, he brought me into the room and he said, look, this movement is going to spread to every town and village whether you join or not. And then he said to me, but do you want to be part of the adventure? I said, yes, sign me up. So in that statement, he completely humbled me, and he completely inspired me at the same time. That who are we? We're very small. Even if you're 6'5", still small. Very small, very insignificant. But when we're part of this amazing movement, then we can be instrumental in delivering something beautiful to people. Perhaps the next phase of ISKCON and the preaching is the most exciting. They say the first phase of ISKCON was that Srila Prabhupada went to the West and preached to the Westerners. Phase 1. Phase number 2 was that the Westerners came to India and preached to the Indians. And maybe now phase number 3 is that the Indians will preach to the whole world. Because it seems like it's happening like that. That ISKCON in India, the preaching here is exploding. So many young, intelligent people are coming. All of you are here. Just imagine, all of you, if you become faithful, you're already faithful, and if you stay faithful, so many things can happen. So, as we talk about preaching, I'll just share one small thing with you. After whatever small years of preaching I've done, nowadays I just boil it down to 3 things. This is what I understand preaching to be, and these are my 3 meditations when I preach or when I try to share Krishna consciousness. The first thing is I try to share something with people that is relevant and relatable. If we want to communicate Krishna consciousness, we need to know what people are going through, what are their needs, their interests, their concerns, what is going through their hearts and minds, what are they struggling with, what are their hopes, what are their dreams, their desires. We must know the people very, very well. We may give a class on the Vyasasana, but then you have to spend hundreds of hours speaking to people, trying to understand what's in their heart. Then when you speak on the Vyasasana or you deliver knowledge, it will be relevant. It will really connect with people. So the first thing I always try to look at when preaching is try to be relevant. Try to address the issues in a language and a way which will reach people. However, there's something deeper than this. And nowadays, the second principle I really, really meditate on is, do I believe in what I'm saying? We want to share wisdom that breathes. Wisdom that breathes means we're not just reading out a script to people. We're not just telling people something that we heard in a class and then just repeating it to them because it sounds good. We're not just memorizing and regurgitating. In the Bhagavatam it said, Yata dhitam yata mati. Now I am repeating Bhagavatam according to how I have understood it, how I have realized it, and how I have digested it. If you share something with people that you have genuinely experienced, then you will touch them in a different way. And therefore nowadays I think I'm speaking all these things, but let me try to speak something to people that I've genuinely experienced, that I'm genuinely feeling. When you're giving 3 classes a day, day after day, at one point you realize, I can't be superficial. You can't sustain it. You have to be real. So nowadays I really try to do that. Whatever small realization I have, try to really share something that I'm experiencing. Second point. And then the third point, which perhaps is even more important, is that nowadays I think of preaching, I mentioned this yesterday, as touching people's hearts. Preaching means you have to touch someone's heart. Through your love, through your compassion, through your concern, through your genuine care for someone, that you really reach a space in their heart which goes beyond the mind and the intellect and moves them in a different way. Therefore, yesterday I was saying Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj beautifully said that the duty of a devotee is to touch as many hearts as possible. So on the presentation level, be relatable. But on the personal level, try to really imbibe, try to really realize what you're talking about. And then on the more profound level, try to really touch people's hearts. Because even if you are falling short in the other 2 categories, if you genuinely share Krishna consciousness out of love, people will understand that language and they'll be transformed. And so this is the great opportunity. Preaching is Srila Prabhupada's gift to us. There are many, many Gaudiya groups, but in Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON, he put preaching in the forefront. Because preaching is actually the most confidential activity of the parampara. Because the most advanced devotees in Krishna's entourage are trying to bring others closer to Krishna, make arrangements for others to have association with Krishna. And when one does this in a mood of selflessness, Krishna becomes very, very pleased. So yes, be creative, be courageous, and be compassionate. And in this creativity, courage and compassion, you will see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes going on in front of you. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Adyapiha Shay Leela Kaha Gaura Roy Kona Kona Bhagyavan Dekhi Badapoy. If anyone ever tells you Mahaprabhu's pastimes ended 500 years ago, you can tell them you're lying. Because Mahaprabhu's pastimes, Kaha Gaura Roy, are going on even today. Kona Kona Bhagyavan, but who is that fortunate person who has developed the vision? Dekhi Badapoy, he can see. So Srila Prabhupada said, in one lecture he beautifully said, I was born in one family and my Guru Maharaj was born in a different family. Who knew that I would come to his protection? Who knew that I would come to the West? Who knew that all of you would come to me? These are all Krishna's arrangements. We cannot understand how things are going on. So this movement is a very transcendental movement. Miracles happened in this movement. Miracles are happening now, and even bigger miracles are going to happen, whether we join or not. But do you want to be part of the adventure? Then you will see some miraculous things. I did a study when I came to ISKCON, and I looked at all of the most advanced devotees in ISKCON. And I said, what do they all have in common? And my conclusion was that the one thing they all had in common was that they took the preaching mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu incredibly seriously. When they went to bed at night, they were in anxiety. How is this movement going to spread? And when they woke up in the morning, they woke up with the purpose, what will I do today to spread the Krishna consciousness movement? So let this become your meditation. Let this become the constant thought through your mind. How are we going to touch as many hearts as possible in this life? If that becomes your meditation, then surely your life will be full of so many adventures. One devotee said to me, you have two options. Either you can fill your life with things to show, or you can fill your life with stories to tell. And if you want to have the best stories to tell, if you want to have the most mystical, magical, moving, memorable experiences, then just try to share Krishna consciousness. Because this is the way to enter into the inner circle of the Sankirtan movement. Hare Krishna. So I could say many more things. I'm looking at time, but it would be nice to hear from all of you. You're preaching, you're here on the ground here. I don't know what I can really offer to you. I mean, your preaching is like expanding, growing. So I don't know, perhaps we should switch positions and I should be asking all of you questions. But if you have some point of discussion or something you'd like to know about, then we have some time to have some questions. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Rasikraman.
Okay. Rasikraman, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Every time we hear you, there is so much of wisdom. Like I was just thinking, reflecting today, you say wisdom that breathes. It is not just wisdom that breathes, it is wisdom that flows. Because it's like a river. Generally wisdom we think is, okay, one reel, 30 seconds, 1 minute. But then every word that you speak, every sentence in the 1 hour is full of so much wisdom. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Wanted to also hear from you and get inspired in the last 1 year or so with this entire online outreach, and then the classes that you are giving, and the funnel, kind of a funnel which is bringing people to Krishna consciousness and the transformation. So if you could share with us, and also on a personal note, like I have been working on this In-Plug Academy, trying to reach out to the colleges and corporates. So like we do one-time programs, but then how to take those people from those one-time to actually serious bhakti practice. So if you could shed some light on that.
Thank you so much. Yes. Yeah, in the last year we began the world of social media. I won't say who, but someone recently called it necessary evil. In this age, social media is a necessary evil. Not always evil. So yes, it's a powerful medium. But let me first preface it. Many years prior to this, maybe 5 or 10 years prior to this, I had the opportunity to go on social media. Somehow or other at that time, Krishna inspired me not to do that. And now I look back and I see I'm very happy that I didn't go on social media 10 years ago. Although if I had gone 10 years ago, maybe I'd have 1 million followers. Because we would have been in the market early. But maybe I wouldn't have spent time introspecting. Maybe I wouldn't have spent time reading, studying. Maybe more of my time would be on creating reels and content and one-line quotes. And maybe I wouldn't have written books and explored the philosophy in deeper ways. We can't take the world to a higher place than what we've reached internally ourselves. Maybe 10 years ago I could have reached many people, but what would I have given them? Would I really have been able to touch their heart and stimulate them with a deep presentation, substantial presentation of Krishna consciousness? Maybe not. So the first thing is, while trying to reach the masses, let's also remember that we want to be able to deliver the goods. We want to be able to deliver them the real thing. Because after some time, everyone searches for the real thing. And we want to be that. So yes, but then 1 year ago, the opportunity came up and we started. And by Krishna's mercy, so many doors have opened. Many people that we've connected with, many people we've reached. Then we created this initiative called Think Gita, because the idea was that we were reaching many people out there, but just to give them a 30-second caption, or just to give them one quote, or just to give them some bite-sized inspiration. No, we want to take them further. So then we created an online portal where people could learn the Gita. So somehow by Krishna's mercy, that's been very successful. Like in January, we began a course on the Gita online, a paid course. And we had like 800 people who signed up. And so there's a hunger out there. I'll let you into a secret. Maybe you know this anyway. I won't say how and why, but very, very soon, know for sure that the Bhagavad Gita is going to go mainstream. Very, very soon, what's going to happen in the next year or two, the planets are conspiring. Everyone, many, many people are going to be out there wanting to learn Bhagavad Gita. Now, in the world, no one has owned the space of Bhagavad Gita. There's no one group who has become the authority on teaching the Gita in the most powerful, practical, and profound way. So we need to own that area. So please think about that becoming the authority, creating a real hub where people can learn the Gita. So anyway, so we did the social media, and then we did this online portal where people can then have systematic understanding of the Gita. And then very, very quickly what we did after that is we created what we call Gita circles. So what we've managed to do is from those courses online, within 9 months we've created about 15 groups that meet every week to discuss and learn Bhagavad Gita online. And then what we did from that is we started holding physical events and physical retreats. And so the funnel of preaching is, number 1, contact. Number 2, cultivate. Number 3, commit. And number 4, congregate. This is basically the life cycle of preaching. That first we have to contact as many people. Then we have to have something which cultivates them. All of you know this. Then from that cultivation, we have to draw out some level of commitment where Krishna consciousness becomes their part of their daily life. And then eventually we have to congregate them into our communities such that they then become advocates who then go out and do the same thing. Contact, cultivate, commit, and then congregate. So whatever preaching we're doing, we need to strengthen on all of these levels. So perhaps one of the difficulties of our preaching in previous ages is we were strong in some of these areas, but maybe not others. In certain times or certain places, we were strong in contact, but then there was no cultivation. In other places, we had good structures within our communities, but it was very insular and there wasn't dynamic ways to get out there to many, many people, so we neglected contact. But here in Chowpatty, I think you have everything. You have contact, cultivate, commit, congregate, you have all the elements. So now it's just joining the dots. So you have incredible ecosystem here. That's why it's working. So yeah, I don't know if this helps. Oh, with corporates. Yeah, corporates. This tough cookie. Not so easy because they're successful, number 1. And number 2, because their life is already set up to some extent. Second complexity. Third complexity, they're busy. They say you stop growing, you stop evolving when you're too busy, too comfortable, or too proud to keep growing. So these are usually the 3 blocks that people have in their growth, their inner growth. Either they're too busy, they're too comfortable, or they're too proud. And these are very prominent amongst corporates, with all respect. So you have to try to circumvent that. You have to try to see. So you have to see, like there are different ways. Sometimes you have to create a situation whereby you support them in being successful. So you know that already, that you try to empower them with skills, or you try to create a network amongst the preaching that you're doing which supports also their corporate endeavors to be successful, and in that way you bring them in. Ultimately, relationships are very, very important. You have to spend time with people. Corporate people also need time away. They need to disconnect. They want to get out of the madness of their intensity. So give them those experiences. You can, obviously, you have GEV and so many beautiful places, so you can take them there. Sometimes if you have some big corporates, some big successful people who are serious devotees, then they can also make good inroads for you in the corporate world, because yes, a brahmachari, they may hear something, but ultimately they want to be successful. So if they see someone who's successful, who has spirituality, then that can also be inspiring to them in a different way. So bring in such people who can also. So yeah, like this. Then you have books. Of course, you have written books, and that's a beautiful thing. That helps them. Yeah, like this. Some ideas, yeah. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you. Maharaj, this is one personal challenge which I face generally. We know that what we have been given, it is such a precious thing and we need to share. But sometimes it happens so that we don't put in the energy which we can or which we should, and we become little slack. On a personal note, this issue I am facing, so how to keep that fire burning for sharing the message of Krishna consciousness, for taking that responsibility more seriously. Oh no, I should put in efforts, more efforts, so that we can share.
Do everything as a team. Srila Prabhupada's movement in the early days spread like wildfire. There wasn't many devotees, but because they were sajatiya, like-minded, all wanting to please Srila Prabhupada, what happened is that sangha of small devotees generated such a enthusiasm, adventure, such initiative, such innovation amongst themselves, that a small group of individuals were able to do superhuman things because of the energy that they created amongst each other. In 1976, when the movement was still very small, you know what happened? In the southern states of America, the BBT put in an order to print 1 million copies of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, do you know that at that time in the history of the world, no book in the history of the world had been printed 1 million times? But here were a small group of devotees who were so enthusiastic and innovative amongst each other that they generated such an energy that they printed 1 million copies of the Bhagavad Gita, something which was a world record, because no book had been printed that many times. That's the power. That's the power. So create a group, create an energy, and then amongst yourselves inspire each other to always think bigger, to always explore newer frontiers, chase the rhino, as Shyam Sundar Prabhu said, and try to do amazing things. Be bold, be brave, go into the unknown. Take a risk for Krishna, like we were talking about yesterday. Shyam Sundar Prabhu tells the beautiful story of how in Berry Place, London, they had rented this building and they had no idea how they were going to pay the rent. It was coming to the day of paying the rent. They had no idea how they were going to do it. They would have been evicted. And then he said one day they just came down the stairs at Berry Place. They walked into the road and there were just notes flying in the sky. And he looked around and there wasn't one person in sight. There were just notes flying in the sky. So they caught as many as they could, went back in, and it was enough to pay the rent. And Shyam Sundar Prabhu said, Srila Prabhupada told us that if you take a risk for Krishna, Krishna has to protect you. And he said, we tested that to the max. And he said, these kind of things, these miracles, it almost came to a point where we were expecting such things to happen. And then he said, but maybe we've lost that spirit. Maybe we've become comfortable. Maybe we've become a little bit religious and ritualistic. We've lost the dynamism. We've lost that element of taking a risk. So try to create a sangha amongst yourselves. Look at this city, Mumbai, such a huge place. And make a strategic plan for conquering. Hridayananda Maharaj, he took sannyas at 21. Srila Prabhupada made him GBC of South America. Of course, there was nothing in South America. But he said, now you're the GBC. Hridayananda Maharaj, at the age of 21, he said, I took a flight. I landed in Rio de Janeiro. I came off the plane, and the first thing I did in the airport was I bought a map of South America. I went back to the place where they had arranged I was staying in Rio. I put the map up on the wall, and I started putting pins. And I said, we're going to first have a temple here, and then here, and then here. And within 2 years, South America was leading the world in book distribution. Was it possible? Adyapiha Shay Leela Kaha Gaura Roy. It's going on. But you have to want to be part of it. So we have to take a risk. We have to be bold. We have to rediscover that purchase some anxiety for Krishna or become lazy. That was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's motto. Purchase anxiety or become lazy. So yes, we have to just step out, and then we step into the mercy flow, and then it starts moving. But do it as a team, and be adventurous, be bold. I was just with His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj in London, so he kindly gave me some time. So I was speaking to him and I was saying, Maharaj, you know, there's so many places in the world that need Krishna consciousness, so many places we can visit. How do I focus? How do I try to make a meaningful contribution? He started laughing. And then he said that for him, 3 cities in the world are important: New York, London, and Mumbai. because he said these are the gateways to the world. It's such an important city. It's where it all happens. Such a great preaching field. It's a great adventure. The pioneering days of Krishna consciousness were not just 50 years ago. The pioneering days are now. It's still pioneering. Be a pioneer. Otherwise, life is boring. What will we do? Boring. There's nothing more exciting than being part of the greatest mission in the world.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, we were talking about relevance, how to be relatable to the outside world. But sometimes we've seen in the making it more relevant to the outside world, the thing goes in like drag to the outside theories and this being need. Then we have to stretch out somewhere Krishna and fit in Krishna somewhere as a feeler. So there is another extreme of being relevant. And speaking too much from the scriptural wisdom that they are not able to correlate with. So these are the two extremes. So to balance it is very difficult task sometimes. But Maharaj, we have seen your talks. You so wonderfully you make it so relatable to the modern world. At the same time, what you speak is totally scriptural wisdom. Yesterday's Prerna class, you brought out those 4 principles, but it was so much from the Arjuna and Krishna's conversation, quoting Bhagavad Gita. So how do we make that more relevant? At the same times, we make it, the scriptural wisdom should come out. Underneath should be the scriptural wisdom. So how do we do that?
I don't know, I'm copying all of you. Looks like we're all copying each other and something's coming out by Krishna's mercy. Ian Pavlov, he says, if you want a new idea, go to an old book. Sometimes I go, when I'm at airports, I always go into the bookshop and I see what are people reading nowadays. What's, nothing new. Already talked about in Bhagavad Gita. But what people are really good at doing out there is that they have unpacked it in a language in which people can really practice it in their day-to-day life. I think in Krishna consciousness we're very, very good at the why, but maybe we don't make the how and the what as accessible as it could be. And people out there, they don't have much of the deep why, but they give people a lot of hows and whats to do. And therefore people go for that. I was mentioning that before I went onto social media, I had that opportunity for many years to try to study. Of course, not as seriously as all of you, but something. And it must begin there. We must know our own Shastra really, really well. I often give this analogy that Shastric learning is not linear. Shastric learning is like a spiral. So you have to study the same book again and again and again and again and again, and then you get deeper and deeper insights into the essence. And then you can relate any subject to that. Want to talk about manifestation and the secret? You can give a Gita perspective on that. Easy. Leadership, management, Gita perspectives, it's all there. So another thing I'd say is that a lot of it, I think, is just language. It's just saying the Shastric principles, but in a language that people can accept and understand. Language is super important. For example, if you see Wisdom of the Sages, isn't it, this podcast with Raghunath Prabhu and Kaushruba Prabhu? Basically, they're speaking Bhagavatam. but they're speaking in a language that people can accept, you know. So, so a few things are: number one, we have to study Shastra ourselves very deeply. Number two, when we look at Shastra, which has a lot of deep theology, let us also try to break that down into very practical steps and practical recommendations for people's lives. For example, we tell people the importance of waking up for Mangalarti, for example. Isn't it? That's an important principle we tell people. But the interesting thing is, some guy out there has written a book called the 5 a.m. Club. So he's basically written a whole book on the importance of the morning. So why is he doing that? We should have done that. Because we want to promote the 5 a.m. Club. But out there, he's reaching millions of people because he's basically promoted what the scriptures have said for eons about the Brahma Muhurta, but he's explained it in a way, a language with scientific research and in an inspirational, empowering way that people read it and think, yeah, I should get up in the morning. Isn't it interesting? So we just have to be able to unpack it, the how and the what. And then the third thing I said is language. Let us, you know, instead of telling people that they're performing sinful activities, which might feel a little bit religious, a little bit dogmatic, we can tell people you're performing activities which will damage your potential. Well, that's nice, huh? Either you can tell, you know, Srila Prabhupada, sometimes he was heavy, of course, many times he was heavy, less intelligent. But then sometimes he would say they have a poor fund of knowledge, which is a little lighter, no? Poor fund of knowledge. So we have to use words carefully. Yeah, these are some ideas, bro.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavad Pranam. Maharaj, in my little research about you, I got to know that you came very close to playing county cricket. So, on the same lines, I often get accused, not accused, but of trying different things. I play sports, participate in martial arts, etc., etc. But, you know, you spoke about being creative in preaching. So, in my humble understanding, it is just one of the ways where you can connect to people and understand their perspective and understand how they think when you go to different places, maybe a gym, maybe a sports club, etc., etc. But oftentimes when I discuss the same among my peers, a usual line
You're
is,
in Maya.
Prabhu, Shrama eva hi kevalam, you're in Maya. So,
yes, I mean, sometimes it pays to be in different forums, to be connected in different networks. Sometimes we can learn many things from these people that can help us in preaching. Of course, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives the example of Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu was on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Now he knew how to penetrate the chakra vyuha. He knew how to penetrate the phalanx of the Kauravas. He knew how to go in and he knew how to fight dynamically. But what he didn't know is how to come out. So the danger, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, is that we can go into situations in order to valiantly preach and share and take what we can take for the Krishna consciousness movement. But then the question is, in the process of doing that, are we able to maintain our own spiritual strength? If you lose that, you lose everything. If you lose out on some creativity, okay, that's not the end of the world. But if you lose out on your consciousness, then what will you preach? So just be conscious, be aware. But yes, you have to move in different areas, but just be careful. One devotee said to Srila Prabhupada, I want to go to the nightclub to preach. Prabhupada said, just make sure you come back. So please come back. If you're going to go to a cricket match, no problem. Please come back and take shelter. Who knows? Yes, maybe you are the one. Maybe you will become the next Sachin Tendulkar. Maybe. But whatever you may become, the first thing is you have to become a devotee. Everything else is a detail. First identity is the identity as a devotee. Then from there you can do anything. So just be wise, be dynamic, be bold, and also be wise. And just know the boundaries. And remember, first, be a devotee. Hare Krishna.
Last question.
Sure.
Sachi.
Thank you, Maharaj. So, like we repeatedly hear that we should give people as per their level, right?
Yes.
So when we are taking care of certain devotees, we see there is a lot of diversity. Some people need some level of comfort. So in managing a youth center, when we are training them, it is a great challenge that how to maintain our morning standards. Because everyone has different needs. Someone may say, oh, for me it's becoming too much or whatever. So there, not to break them also, but at the same time elevate them. So this is the challenge which we face. So kindly guide.
Our old temple president at the manor, once we were meeting with him about the brahmacharya ashram, and he said, there's one problem with your ashram. You don't have any mothers in the ashram. And I said, how you can have mothers? It's a brahmacharya ashram. And he said, but the motherly role is extremely important. When you bring up a child has a mother and a father. And generally the father is giving discipline, the father is giving pushing, the father is setting targets, the father is bringing in a lot of structure. And generally what the mother is doing is the mother is just being kind, being loving, always seeing the good, nourishing, supporting, emotionally contributing. For an ashram to work, you need both elements. It's not so much that where do we put the standard? Do we put it here or do we put it here? That's not so much the question. The question is, even if you put the standard here or here, is there enough love? Is there enough kindness? Is there enough human interaction behind all of those standards to then help the people who may struggle with it? Because I think if you set the standard low or if you set the standard high, both will come with its own problems. But when we give a chance to everyone we're caring for to open their heart, to share their struggles, and to have genuine outlet to resolve the obstacles that they're encountering, then I think you won't lose anyone. Even if the standards are high for someone, if they feel the love, the care, the kindness, then they'll rise, you know. So yes, it's always a challenge. Generally, try to keep the standard at a point where those who are above that standard still don't feel like it's being diluted, and those who are below the standard don't feel as though it's so far that it's unattainable. And then what you do is you do a lot of personal mentoring to then bring the ones who are here up and make sure the ones who are above the standard don't go lower but continue growing. So I think you can't take the personal element out of preaching. The standards and the general rules that we make are just a framework. But inside of all of that, there has to be a lot of love, a lot of kindness. I don't know if this helps or, yeah. Thank you.
Should go on and go on, the nectar let flow. But unfortunately, we have to end because Maharaj has to go up for the Sunday Fest class. So we are very much thankful, Maharaj, for squeezing out your time and giving time to all of us. Thank you very much. His Holiness S.B. Keshava Swami Maharaj ki.